Parkcast, the UK's original theme park podcast.
Welcome back to Parkcast, Park fans. We're a podcast for theme park fans. We're here every week talking about things in the theme park world. We are your weekly dose of theme park chat. Now, it's a bit of a different episode of Parkcast this week. I'm on my own because I wanted to come on and talk about something which I got sent this week, which has sent shockwaves through the online theme park community. So if any of you are listening who don't follow me on social media, you might not be aware of any of it. So I thought it's only fair that you guys, the OGs, get to hear about this as well. And this is where I'm going to tell you this in more detail than I've given online. So you are definitely in the right place for a bit of theme park nerding. And the topic of the conversation is Project Horizon at Alton Towers. Now, I'm sure if you're listening to this, you're very much aware of Project Horizon. It is the planned new indoor roller coaster for Alton Towers, which is supposed to sit behind the world of David Walliams, sort of behind the dungeons. And it has been long rumoured. Planning permission's gone in, planning permission got granted. We expected to have it by now. It's never got off the ground, and there have been all sorts of rumours about what's happening with it. And I will caveat this by saying we still don't know what is happening with it. It may still very well be going ahead in one form or another. We don't know. We are waiting for news. In the next couple of weeks, we should see spades in the ground if they are going to use the existing planning permission, but we don't know. We're very much in the dark about it. But last week, I got some interesting news when I opened my Instagram inbox and had a message from an anonymous source. It was an account which had no followers, didn't follow anyone, certainly didn't follow me. And what I received in that message was some screenshots of some slides relating to Project Horizon. Now, I'm quite a skeptical person. I mean, I've been a theme park fan for a long time. You know how we are. And when these arrived in my inbox, I thought, is this someone having a little bit of a laugh? So I immediately messaged back and said, where did you get these from? And the source said that they worked on the project and that they are legitimate slides relating to the project. Now, online, there are people who don't believe this to be true, and they believe that the slides I've posted about are fake. The vast majority of people believe they are true, and I have had several other sources since I post them say they are definitely true, and they have seen these slides for themselves as well, and they are legitimate slides. So make of that what you will, but that's where we are, and that's how we got onto this. Now, when I got these slides, my first instinct wasn't to post anything about them. In fact, I did say to the person who sent me them, these will go no further, clearly. And I do get sent stuff and I get told information sometimes, and I am very careful about not sharing it unless I've had a very specific blessing to share it. But I had a further conversation with this person, mainly for me to try and work out if they were legitimate themselves, and also to find out, you know, what their thoughts were on it being shared. They were quite clear that they were happy for them to be shared. And after having a bit of a conversation with them, I was very happy that they were legitimate. So I decided to share them. And now I'm going to share with you exactly what was on them. Now, obviously, this is a podcast and I can't show you the slides themselves, but what I can do is talk you through what was on them, and you can decide for yourself what you make of them. Is it something that you believe? Is it something you would have liked to have seen at Alton Towers? And can Project Horizon ever live up to this now? Now, what I have been told by this source is this version of the project is completely and utterly and totally dead, which is another reason I was happy to share it. Some people did say I shouldn't be talking about projects that are in the works, but I believe that this is totally dead. I've been assured this is totally dead, and we are not going to see this in any shape or form. So make of that what you will. So this was a slide deck with a series of slides, and it included loads of information. It included site photos, an overview of the project, which talked about like even things down to media and marketing. Those slides weren't sent to me. I was very much specifically sent slides relating to the ride project itself. There were some key facts in there, which I think most of us already knew. So the manufacturer was listed as Intamin. It was supposed to open in March 2025. Cry. It was going to have 3 trains, and it was going to have a budget of £12.5 million, which again, that figure has been bandied around before. It was listed as a family thrill coaster, and I will get into what kind of roller coaster we were looking at. And that surprised me a little bit with the information that I was given. Now, there's a whole backstory to this project, which made me both excited but also was a little bit of a kick in the teeth, because this was going to be an original Alton Towers IP. It wasn't going to steal an IP from anyone else. It was very much old school, like Alton Towers from the ground up backstory. So that's really exciting. What it said in the slides was the compelling proposition. Now, this is quite sort of salesy marketing speak when you are pitching something, but the compelling proposition was a multi-launch indoor roller coaster that propels you through a disorientating alternate universe and into a black hole. Where have we heard that before? Yes, this did lean into the black hole, obviously a former ride at Alton Towers. And a slightly longer version of that is a multi-launch roller coaster in the dark featuring state-of-the-art special effects that will propel you into the disorientating depths of a black hole. The ride culminates, get my words out, in a spectacular visual finale where your safe passage back through the black hole to reality is closing and your existence is in jeopardy. There you go, mind-blowing. This is the kind of level of detail that was in the slides that I was sent, which is what made me think this is quite genuine. This isn't someone having a laugh on AI. It doesn't read like AI. It reads like a human's written it. And I was never in any doubt that these were real. So the backstory to the coaster was, like I said, an original Alton Towers IP. They were going to lean into some of the history of Alton Towers, and the basic idea was that within the grounds of Alton Towers, a historic folly has been unearthed, and that folly houses the secrets of the universe. This is so like old school classic Alton Towers theme. I absolutely love it, and it kind of makes me sad that it's not happening, but that's where they were going with this. So inside this chamber was an artifact. They were calling this the Talon. This was very central to the whole theme of the ride. I did have someone say on, I think it was TikTok, oh, are you sure it's a Talon? Because that's an eagle's claw and not a talisman. Definitely says a Talon in these slides. So the Talon was in these chambers, and that contained the black hole. So the black hole was within the Talon, and it generates gateways through the universe by consuming objects and light. There's a whole spiel on that, but that's the basic theme of the ride. So although we were leaning into the black hole of Alton Towers past, it was very much not a play on that kind of spacey theme. It was more time and movement sort of thing rather than we're going to space. So I thought that was quite interesting. And the short version of this attraction story is you discover an ancient artifact containing a black hole that launches you through an ever-changing kaleidoscope universe. But its constant use causes it to become so massive, it begins to destroy the universe as we know it. Isn't that always the way when you find a black hole? Terrible. So I really loved this about what I was sent. I loved that there was clearly a strong creative direction from what I'm assuming is the Merlin Magic Making team to come up with an IP which is original but also is very much linked to Alton Towers. And I think that is what we miss more recently with Alton Towers, is using these amazing grounds, using this amazing landscape that this theme park has. This is one of the most unique theme parks in the world, to not lean into some of the history and the ideas of what might be buried underneath the grass that we all walk over, I think is crazy. I think it's absolutely what they should be doing. And I mentioned in an online video, it needs to be whimsical and it needs to lean into all this kind of stuff. So I was really pleased that they were doing that. Obviously, like I said, this has now been binned off, so we're not going to see this. Might we see another original IP? Maybe. I genuinely don't know. They've also put in some long detail about unusual objects which have been unearthed around the ground, so it wasn't just going to be this Talon, and I can imagine that would have been a bit of a pre-marketing spiel on it, with all these little random ruins and bits of ruin being found, and that would have been a great tease campaign before the ride was sort of officially announced. Onto the roller coaster itself. So the rumours about Project Horizon have long been an Intamin multi-dimension coaster, and it may well be that has been an idea for the project at some point. With these slides, I have been told that they were very much based on a straddle coaster, which was both a curse and a blessing, I suppose. I mean, it would have been great to have a straddle coaster in the UK and, a very modern take on a roller coaster. But its downfall was apparently the capacity of that. They couldn't get over how little throughput it would have, and they thought that that was going to be an issue. I have been sent a layout for the ride, which I will talk about, which kind of plays into that. But yes, these versions of the plan were apparently not for a multi-dimension. They were for a straddle coaster. And that was new information. I don't think that had ever been talked about in any of the rumours that we had. Now, as I said, this project was leaning into the idea of the black hole. That was what this Talon contained. It was very much where you were sent when you are on the ride. And according to these slides, that is what the ride was going to be called. It was going to be the black hole, which I'm sure people have different opinions on that. Do you lean into history and nostalgia and a ride name that people know and love at Alton Towers? Or do you go for something new? There's pros and cons to both. I don't mind it in this sense because they weren't trying to recreate the experience of the original black hole in any way. It was a totally different concept. It just used the name, which I think is fine. But I'm sure there will be some of you listening who say, why didn't it just have a new name, a new original name? Interestingly, the Talon, which I talk about, so that is a triangle shaped object, which also kind of formed the logo for it, or formed part of the logo. So imagine a triangle with three rectangles in the middle. That's the Talon. That is the idea, the iconography around the ride. And if you look very closely at the current Alton Towers Resort logo, you will see that in there. So there's a bit in the slides about this being hidden in plain sight. I guess a bit like the Folly, which they're talking about, was hidden in plain sight. It got unearthed and this kind of got discovered. So did the logo. So look at the current Alton Towers logo. Look at the towers part of it, the very central part of it with the triangular roof with the three rectangles in the middle of it. Take that off the Alton Towers logo. That forms part of the black hole logo according to these slides, which I thought was quite clever and interesting. And I do like the idea that, yeah, it was hidden there in plain sight all along. It was another reason that made me think these are genuine. Like, someone has thought about that, and let's be honest, AI isn't going into that much detail. Now, there is more history and backstory in these slides. It's not particularly relevant to the ride, but what it does show is that a lot of time was spent thinking about this, thinking about historical figures that could have been linked in with it, and local legends. And one of them is that a local legend has it that family wealth and power was gained via supernatural means for the Alton estate. So they were even going into that kind of level of detail, kind of Hex-esque, referring back to the family, albeit not in a genuine historical way, but using some of that history to build into the ride theming. And for the location where it was going to be, I think it was a great idea. I'm sad that that's not happening. Now, one of the main things that's caused controversy when I've mentioned it online is that as part of the slides, they talk about a future land. So this project was obviously designed to be behind the world of David Walliams in basically a standalone indoor coaster building. But the slides mention a future land concept, which would include both this ride, the black hole, as we will call it, the dungeons, which clearly needs something doing with it, let's be honest. Hex and the towers is kind of just outside this proposed land, but it is still marked on it. So I think there's an idea that you could definitely nod into that, and this could all be kind of part of that. But interestingly, Dark Forest is also included in this concept. Now, it is a concept, and the words in the slides are longer term. The area could be developed with the surrounding areas and attractions to create a mega land based on the myths and folklore of Alton Towers. That's interesting. Obviously, Hex already does that. this new attraction would have potentially done that. So then we're looking at the dungeons and what could be done with that building and that ride system that could tie into Alton Towers. And we're looking at Dark Forest. We've got definitely 13 is going to be around in the long run. Well, I think that could be quite easily twisted to give a slightly more Alton Towers take on it. And then you've got Rita, which may or may not have stayed. But again, it suggests that the theming to it would have been tweaked. Dark Forest may not have been Dark Forest forever. And instead, this mega land would have been created. I was told that the Burger Kitchen was also included on this re-theme idea, which again makes sense. You can't have a myths and folklore Alton Towers land and then just the Burger Kitchen to one side. So would that have become a big themed restaurant? How cool would that have been? I would have liked to have seen it. There may still be plans for that to happen. But that was very much part of these designs. And again, people are saying that there's no way they would have incorporated the Dark Forest into this. Why wouldn't they include the world of David Walliams? That's right next door. I agree. On paper, it makes far more sense that the world of David Walliams would be included on this. But that is not what the slides say. I can only go by what the slides say. These slides, by the way, are a few years old now. Don't forget, this was due to open in March 2025. According to them, the fact that it hasn't opened shows how far that this has probably moved on from there. I think these plans were around 2022, 23. So the world of David Walliams maybe wasn't quite as high priority as it probably is now. I'm sure if they were looking to do some sort of land rejig right now, you'd have to be thinking about putting the world of David Walliams into that. But again, I don't know. And the slides don't say anything about it. So I'm only speculating in the same way that any of us do. But yeah, the original plans very much say Dark Forest remodelling as part of it. So those were the original slides. And as I said, I was having a conversation with the sender because I wanted to work out if they were who they kind of intimated that they were and how much they knew. I was very convinced very quickly that they were legitimate. And over the next few days, I did get sent some more things, mainly visuals to do with the ride, which again hurts my soul a little bit. So I'm going to try and describe these in the best way I can. So the outside visuals for the ride show a sort of Avatar-esque land. It's lush and green, but with relics, historical relics, but then almost like light beams as well. Hard to explain, but a lot of detail into it. This was not going to be a warehouse housing an indoor roller coaster with nothing around it. Clearly, the landscaping and the area around it was very much part of the plan and very well thought through. And it was going to look pretty spectacular. Likewise, I then got sent some interior visuals for what we could have seen within the ride. So within the ride, there were going to be screens. It wasn't just going to be a roller coaster. It was going to be very, very immersive. And the visuals I got sent for that were very like you're traveling through a black hole, like Star Wars-esque kind of beams, but then also some weird kind of like triangular shapes and rectangular shapes which were an angle, which would probably make you feel like you were more on the side than maybe you were. Very kind of futuristic, I would say the on-ride visuals were. And these weren't videos or anything like that. They were just screenshots. So it was only giving an idea. Now, if you do want to see those and you haven't already, go and look me up on either TikTok or Instagram. There is a video on there where I show those slides, so you can get a better idea of them. But yeah, very like laser beamy, colourful kind of visuals, which was kind of at odds with the outside visuals, which were more relic-y, if that makes sense. I also got sent the planned layout, which again, that is shared on a video online if you want to see that. And what we could learn from the layout was there was going to be 2 launches within it, a couple of drops, some banked turns. It wasn't a particularly long layout. And what people very quickly sort of thought about it was it's basically a clone of Dark Coaster at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, in terms of a layout. Now, there is an idea that this layout, and I think, I can't confirm this, but I think it makes sense. You would have gone around it twice, and that there are, track effects and things like that, which would have made it longer. That would also tie in with why they were worried about capacity, I guess. But the building itself wasn't a huge building, and the track layout itself isn't a huge track layout. But I think what you would have found is, you go around it sort of twice and the effects would have changed. So you would have felt like you were having a much longer ride experience than the track suggested. Again, that is online. If you want to go and see it, just look me up on my social media channels and you will find that on there. So that is basically what I got sent. In as much detail as I can share. That is reading through some of the detail on the slides, which I haven't done before. Obviously, I can't show you the visuals through the medium of a podcast, but they are available online if you want to see them. I am not connected to Alton Towers or Merlin in any way, and I can't 100% verify that these are genuine. All I can do is give you my gut instinct and say, the conversation that I've had with the person who sent them, I believe they're genuine. After I've posted them, big fans of Alton Towers, people who are connected to Alton Towers have messaged me and said, yes, what you've been sent is genuine. So make of that what you will. I believe they're genuine, but what I also believe is that we are never going to see the light of day. Which is a real shame. As I said, the reasons that were given to me were capacity being an issue. I've also since been told that budget concerns were starting to play into it, which kind of put it back on the table. I don't know if after these slides a different concept was mooted, maybe a multi-dimension coaster, which is where those rumours have come from. I genuinely don't know. I haven't asked the question of my source. I've only ever asked when they've sent me something. I haven't tried to dig too much into anything post then. My understanding is that they have left Merlin, so they probably wouldn't have that level of detail anyway. But I genuinely believe this is what we could have won with Project Horizon if it had gone ahead as it should have done and opened in March 2025. So let's look at what we've got. A ride called the Black Hole. It was a family thrill coaster, a straddle coaster with visual effects in a new area with a potential of a full megaland, including the Dark Forest, which was going to lean into the myths and folklore of Alton Towers and linked into that Hex area as well. It was going to be based on a Talon, which was an artifact that was found within the grounds of Alton Towers, which contained the secrets of the universe, and the Black Hole, which then takes us back to the ride being called the Black Hole. What do you make of it? Do you believe it? Would you have liked to have seen it? Have they made the right decision in pulling back from this? Do you think you're going to see anything of Project Horizon at all? Or is it dead in the water? Are they going to concentrate on anything else? Should we be just concentrating on getting some flat rides, for goodness sake, in Alton Towers? Obviously, this is only enthusiast opinion. We are not going to, unfortunately, have an effect on any of the decisions of the management of Merlin or Alton Towers. But this is what we're here for as enthusiasts, right? To have a debate and have a chat. So if you're listening to this episode, get in touch with me either by commenting or by finding me on socials and sending me a message and let me know what you think. Do you buy into this or not? Are you sad that we're not going to get it? Do you think we'll ever see another original IP at Alton Towers? I appreciate this has been a different episode this week, but it felt wrong to not talk about it with you guys. We will be back to normal next week, and I've got another theme park guest for us, or two guests actually, and we're going over to Black Gang Chine on the Isle of Wight, the UK's oldest theme park, and we're going to chat all about that, which I think is going to be fascinating. If you have enjoyed today, like I said, let me know what you think and what your thoughts are. If you haven't already, leave a rating, and that always helps with the podcast and getting the word of the podcast out to everyone. And hit that subscribe button so that you never miss a future episode. For now though, I've been Parkcast.
Parkcast, the UK's original theme park podcast.